before they opened their mouth, they were cute. They were gorgeous, especially women. I know y'all have met men.
I've never done it.
I know. You never done what?
I'm kidding. No, go ahead.
No. I'm just saying, on face value, you've probably met a guy before who you thought, oh, this guy's handsome, and then he opened his mouth, and the more he talked, he became increasingly unattractive to you.
That's why I don't talk to men. Hello. Are you there? This is Zar Conner and my beautiful husband, Joseph. And this is the Mimi Tatum Connor's couch. Are you out there? We are back and we are talking all things Married at First Sight, season 18, episode 9. So, Joe, how have you been? What kind of week have you had?
I'm tired. I don't have a lot to give.
Truth is, I'm
tired and I woke up with a backache and I don't know why.
And then he turned the heat on to like 117 degrees.
No, I didn't. When I woke up, it was 60 degrees in the house, and I
felt wonderful.
It did not. It was cold, and I turned it to 67.
I was sweating. I let him do it for a little bit, and then I was like, I can't.
Freezing.
It was messing with my head.
Like it was freezing.
It's okay. But hey, y'all, how y'all been? We are back. We're talking Married at First Sight, like y'all know. And I'm going to just open this up by saying, thank God we got to episode 9. I finally feel like we're in the clear. And they didn't even get on my nerves that bad this episode.
What are we in the clear of, though?
Of y'all getting on my nerves.
No, we definitely not in the clear.
I'm tired. Truth is, if I'm keeping it 100, I'm tired of, I don't mind having like actual conversation about the episode. You know what I mean? Like what's going on, people falling in love, all that stuff like that. I really get tired of having conversations about people, adults who sign up for things and then be like doing 180.
Or just like bitch and moan about what they signed up for.
My point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's been really hard for me to like watch this because it feels like it's been a lot of that.
It has been a lot of complaining.
I mean, it is. A lot.
And excuse making.
And excuse making. And it feels like we're getting a bit of resolution with some of the conversations we've had with the couples I've had with Dr. P this episode. So let's start with Madison and Allan. We find out what actually happened with Allan and why he didn't show up to football, which was, Joe wanted to give him the right to be wrong last episode. But I did feel like his reasoning was petty. So let me set it up for you, Joe. They go to the bar after their birthday party at the apartment, little housewarming birthday party. Whilst there, Allan felt like Madison was separate with her friends. He was separate with his friends. And it didn't feel like they were there together. And it was like no checking in. He said it felt like, she was just solo Madison at the bar. And that bothered him. So the night progresses. She goes to the bathroom. He doesn't see her. Because he didn't see her, he just left. And that started the series of events after that. How did you feel about, one, the story that he communicated, but how he handled it?
I think that it's always important to handle, we talked about this last week with Ikechi and his situation and the cousin. And I'm going to say this again because I think it's so important to handle conflict well, especially when you are married. Because when you do not, then you become the issue instead of the issue becoming, getting fixed and the issue getting addressed and your issue getting addressed. Right. And that's just human nature. That's all it is. Like, it's just human nature. Within full context of everything, you're not going to get me to tell Allan that he's wrong. I think that when they are not on camera, Madison
pays him dust. And you know what? What's becoming increasingly more clear, the more I listen to what Allan says, the more I believe that.
And he's telling us that.
He's telling us that without outing her. He's begging her for any kind of closeness.
1,000%.
Not even like touchy closeness. I mean, like, talk to me. Let's hang out. Whatever.
Yes. And it's getting increasingly hard to watch because you can tell that she pays him dust. And my thing with Madison is you can control your actions. You cannot control the consequences of your actions. Right. So if you want to continue to pay this man dust and continue to treat him like like a stepbrother, you can't then get upset when he reaches a limit. He's human. We are all human, right? And so we can only turn the cheek but so much, which was also something that we talked about. It's a running theme with David and Allan. It's a running theme of we can't keep slapping these men in the face and expecting them to turn the cheek and walk back with a smile, right? So when you have a human reaction like Allan did I'm fed up. Like, I'm tired of this. Right. We're not together. You want to act like we're not together? We're not together, and I'm going home. You know what I mean? Like, that's a natural reaction. That's actually
what happened. I'm not sure, but I'm sure.
And that's why you can't get me to chastise this man, because I've been seeing what she's been doing this whole time.
And I'm starting to feel, I completely agree with you that it's hard for me to get on board with what Madison is saying, because I see you for your works. And
This the woman who came home day one and went out all night and didn't come home at all?
And I also think that if we're being honest, a lot of what Madison does is performative, and Allan understands that, right? So he knows that. So I think that's why he tells stories, not stories, but that's how
he explains what happened.
Exactly, the way he does and everything like that. I am annoyed with Madison because this is strictly because she does not find him attractive.
And you can't convince me
there's nothing else.
That is anything else.
And when I think about people who come to me and we have conversations about where they are in life and why they can't find people, a lot of the times they want you to believe it's this chemistry. They can't spell the word chemistry, don't know what stoichiometry is, can't name a thing on a periodic table. But they want to call it chemistry. But what it really is that you just don't like the way this person looks.
Yeah.
And you say chemistry because you think that makes you seem like deeper. But you are shallow. You know what I mean? And if you just led with that, we could get further along.
Yeah, and I think we hear people throw the chemistry thing out because it's common.
Yes.
So they feel like...
And they common. Pick that up.
And they feel like if I use something that is a common analogy, more people can understand my plight and come to my side. And I think that's what this is really about, especially when we talk about all the excuse making that we hear.
This is also an overwhelming thing for me as well. Love Dr. Pia. I think one of the biggest things I'm having an issue with is at the point that we are here, there hasn't been enough expert intervention to even put these people back on the straight path, right? Mm-hmm. I've been really sitting and kind of taking this in. It takes 3 weeks to change a habit, but it also takes 3 weeks to create one. So at the point where I'm 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, and I know I don't like this person, we have not addressed that I don't like this person. We have not spoken about whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. To me, the mind is made up. Mm-hmm. So they're not going past 8 weeks at this point. You know what I mean? And it's getting increasingly to be that way because there's a lack of intervention early on, because they should hit them over the head the moment they step on soil.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we need to know how you feeling. Why do you think you were paired? Are you attracted? I need to know all these things now, because when you give these people time, what it also gives them is the ability to manipulate the answer. Now they're going to answer the next question they think you're going to ask. Not so much are you attracted to them. They thinking, what's after that? Mm-hmm. So they already creating an answer for that. And I think Madison is one of those people. And I think the idea that we didn't nip that in the bud earlier, now she's done spun herself out of this whole relationship. She is not here.
1,000%. And I think the issue with that is when they first got back from the honeymoon, there wasn't enough attention paid to the egregious action of Madison leaving the house and not coming home.
They should have been there the day after.
This is the day after. This is not okay. And that set the environment for which Allan doesn't know what to do with his hands.
Exactly. Or right? What to say.
Or
how to compliment you. They sit down with Dr. Pia, and, Dr. Pia just asked a straight up question, how is married life? And Madison answers, and I want y'all to listen to this answer. Madison answers by saying, for us, we're struggling with the romantic and the physical. And the problem I have with that answer is, although that may be true for her, that might not be true for him.
No. It's not true for him. And I think that's my issue with a lot of So I appreciate that there was more expert interactions on this episode because y'all remember I've been saying we need it for weeks.
But
now.
If y'all gonna give me 30 episodes, y'all could give me one session. There is a show called Couples Therapy where you're literally watching people in couples therapy the entire show. I would prefer, because we're going to get 150 episodes of Married at First Sight anyway, you all just giving us the real, because they piecemeal is so much, it's so cut and paste.
Yeah.
You don't know where the conversation starts or where it ends, or if there was any actual resolution.
Right. And the biggest issue that I have when they do these sessions is that too often it feels like they allow people to make a single issue a we issue.
Yes. Right? And nobody changes
and not just holding their feet to the fire and saying, say it with your chest, stand on it, and understand that this is your issue, right? You have an attraction issue. That's not his issue. And that's also an important way to know how to attack issues, right? Because we have to get it down to the bare bones and the root of the cause. And it's still just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks when we're mischaracterizing what the issue is and what the elephant in the room is. Allan does not have an attraction issue with you.
At all.
So let's get her when she sits down and she said, well, we're doing this and
she should have went to Allan and said, are you
doing that? Right.
But that's what I'm saying, right? I think that there's a lack of, because the truth of the matter is, as a person who's going to couples therapy and therapy by herself with the same therapist, there is a point in therapy where your therapist goes, I don't need to have this conversation with the other person. I think I just need to have this conversation with you. Because and it's not enough of that.
It's definitely
because
not.
The truth of the matter is, we're making Allan feel like it's something that he needs to do to be more present in this relationship. And that's not the case.
It's not the case.
It's not a thing this man will be able to do.
Yeah.
But instead of us addressing that, we're making everything like these we statements, when in truth, your relationship, although is a unit, what did the lady say? It's really like when two businesses come together. It's a merger. Mm-hmm. You merge and create one thing. But I still got to deal with my my K1 statement from the last year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You still got to deal with your K1 statement from the last year. We figure out how we're going to balance our books and everything like that, and then we can come together. But I still got to be healthy alone.
Yeah.
And I feel like...
And you still got to be accountable for your shit. We all are human. We bring our own shit to the tables. I can't just be coming in here spreading my shit on her side of the thing, because then it makes it even messier. If we just silo something and go, okay, this is something that maybe you need to work on, that's out the way. We've cleared it up. We now have a clear, objective goal as to what this thing is and how we fix it. And it's a lot of muddying of the waters when we start to just spread it around and say, maybe this is a us thing.
I'm not a therapist. But I don't believe that every issue, it took two people to create it.
Right.
I don't believe that. I just don't. You know what I mean? I believe that I don't believe every issue requires accountability from both parties.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just did something effed up and it had nothing to do with me. Because despite the fact that this is we're one unit now, you're still your own person.
Yeah.
And I think that's getting buried here prematurely. And not to say that it should be like we're pointing the fingers. I think it's more that these people need intervention and we're not getting it to them in a timely manner.
1,000%, because like you said, they've had, weeks or days to kind of cultivate these toxic environments.
Yes. Nothing is going to change.
And now this is just how they operate. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And they've just been operating that way now. At the time of having these meetings, they got a routine now. David and Michelle have a routine of just not seeing each other.
Come on, and they think it's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Madison and Allan do not speak.
Right.
And they think that's fine.
Yeah.
And the truth is, Allan doesn't, right? But he also doesn't have anybody there to help advocate for the feelings of being like.
And 1,000%. And also, just as an example, because we'll get to this, you also do the couple of disservice when there's a bomb that goes off. There's something that they trip over and it's not handled in real time, like and K. And then we find out weeks later, oh, this happened. When did this happen? Last week, 2 weeks ago. So now y'all been stewing. One half of the couple been stewing over this thing, and then y'all gotten to this piss poor mode of doing life together, and now y'all don't talk to each other, or y'all don't see each other. You know what I mean?
And then you think we're going to come back and be all kumbaya. The truth of the matter is we're not set up for success. And I mean that when you create a pattern, it is so hard to break it after a certain amount of time. Yeah. So the point at which I have had this idea that we're just struggling romantically and physically, she said that to herself every single morning, noon, and night for 20 some odd days. It is now, it's now calcified in her brain.
Yeah.
It's calcified in her brain. You can't convince her otherwise.
Yeah, she would pass a lie detector test on
Come on.
Yeah.
That's what we're not. That's why it feels. I want Dr. Pia to get her check, but I do also feel like, who cares? If we cared, we'd have been knocking these mother jumpers over the head in the beginning. Also, I think as an outside person looking in who is in relationship or is not in relationship, I think it's just good to see experts do expert shit.
Yes, but it's also good because the hardest time in a new operation is the beginning.
How about that?
That's why when you get hired at a new job, they tether you to somebody. They train you. They take you through all of these things.
What are we
because
even doing
this
here?
this is the hardest time. So at a point where you're marrying a stranger and it's immediately sink or swim, right? There should be more opportunities for them to at least come to y'all and say, hey, we need to talk about this or this thing happened. Because now, at least from my experience in this episode, now we're seeing things that have festered.
That's my point. And I'm not saying that the experts haven't been there. And this is not.
They kind of haven't.
I don't even know how I want this to be
feels
an
like that
indictment
to me.
on them as much as I feel
It
like.
it might not be on them. It might be a scheduling thing or whatever, but they haven't.
But the point I'm trying to make is me and Joe have had knockout, drag out arguments at midnight, okay? And emailed our therapist at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And said, we need to talk today.
Yeah.
Okay? So the idea that it's almost as if it's like these parse meetings, they should be hitting these people over the head so much.
This is go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm done.
This is such a good point because I just was having a conversation with a couple of friends of ours, and I was speaking about not letting things continue to roll snowball.
Yes.
Right? Like you and your spouse, you'll never not have issues. You'll never not have conflict, right? But it is important to handle those conflicts. That's what where the whole never go to bed angry thing came from, right? It's just as a part of the idea that you don't want to let things snowball. You don't want to stew and fester, right? But when these things go days and days and weeks, I was telling a friend of ours, then you allow space for your spouse to get comfortable being in this negative place.
Yes.
And then you get comfortable being in this negative place. And then it's a race to the bottom.
And then it's not negative anymore. The place
and
ain't
then
even
it's just
negative.
normal.
Yes.
It just becomes your new normal of
Yep.
we not talking, we're not eating dinner together. I come in the house, I do my thing. She come in the house, she do her thing. And this goes on for days and days and days. And then it can get to a point where you don't want it to get to a point where it's too far gone down the road where y'all did too much BS to each other that now you got to start unraveling the bullshit that you added on top of it when it was really just something that you were able to manage and tackle if you would have tackled it in a timely fashion.
And the problem is that I really do believe everybody don't have the tools for that, right?
Right.
I do. I don't. That's why I think therapy is so important. But I think the point at which you decide, there's got to be more incentive for these people to be around each other. And I feel like we're getting into the space, a very scary space with this production, where these people in what is autonomy, the definition, I'm doing air quotes, the definition of that is changing. And I'm saying that because we move on to Madison, just saying she is more into her independence and singleness. She said this. And Dr. Pia, rightfully so, asked her, so are you saying you have a pattern of not prioritizing your partner? And how do we get you to do that here? And then she goes on to say, no, I prioritize people appropriately. And it's like, no, you don't. You just said in your last few relationships, that's not something that was a priority for you. And it's making me feel like you wanted to be on Love Island. And Madison, I probably would have banged with you if you was on Love Island, if I'm keeping it 100.
You'd have been a 3 on there.
Don't do that.
I didn't like how she was trying to set this up in this conversation with Dr. Pia because
she was trying to make Allan the problem.
She was trying to make everybody the problem.
Yes, everybody.
That's such a hugely toxic trait that I see in so many singles today, where they've had an issue. The common denominator in all of your relationships is you. There's no way that in every relationship you've had, your ex was the problem.
Right.
It's just impossible, right? Especially for somebody who is as attractive and who has probably been as active in the dating world as Madison, whether it was something that she would label a boyfriend-girlfriend thing or just a talking phase or whatever. There's no way that every failed relationship you had was because of somebody else. And there's a lot of people that's walking around in the world today that will tell you that, specifically women. Oh, it ain't there's no guys out here. For your whole life? For 35 years, you ain't met not one good man in 36 years. But we see it a lot, especially on social media.
I think everybody has a way of saying it some way, somehow. Because inversely, women will say that, but no man want to get married. Even though men live longer, they make more money, they're healthier when they are married. That's like a fact. You know what I mean? But they'll sit up, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. Everybody got a way of saying those things.
It's very different, though, to say that all your relationships ended because the opposite sex is just terrible in the world. That's not something that I've historically heard men say. Like, it just ain't no women in the world.
Then why don't men get married?
I'm not talking about the aspect of marriage. I'm saying the aspect of failed relationships. Like, looking at a relationship and saying, no, none of these failures were my fault.
But what I'm saying is,
I hear that a lot. Like,
men don't get into relationship to even be able to say that. That's what I'm saying. They'll situationship you to death.
This is apples and oranges. I'm talking about taking responsibility for failed relationships, right? And I'm saying that there is a thing that I've heard a lot. I haven't heard a lot of men say that I am single because there are no good women in the world. That's just not a thing that we hear them say. You know what I mean?
I don't hear it a lot. I mean, but I think, I don't want to do the gender wars thing, because I could give you some.
It's not a gender wars thing. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. It's not a gender wars thing. I was just making a point.
No. I'm saying your point is fine. I'm saying I don't want to do the gender wars.
Right. But that's not
like, I don't want to go back and forth about it.
Right. Because that's not what it is. It was an observation, and it's something that I'm honestly seeing. Y'all know me. I just call a spade a spade. Like, I'm not on the Mars versus Venus podcast. But seeing Madison do it, it's an observation, and I've seen it a lot. And I think that Madison, also Michelle does it. Like, just within this cast,
I think
Michelle does it, right? Where I'm single and I haven't been in a relationship because every man that I've dated is bad, right? And Madison, and what I didn't like is that Pastor Dr. Pia didn't stop her and go, so you think that you've gotten to this point in your life, and the only reason why you haven't had a successful relationship is because of your exes. That's crazy to me.
But the truth of the matter is, if men were so good at relationships, they wouldn't be number one violent offenders.
That's not what I'm saying.
They wouldn't be. I'm saying that somebody.
I'm not saying that men are so good at relationships. It's not
far-fetched to me that a woman would say, a man, her exes were the problem. That's not far-fetched to me, because we know that men are violent offenders. We know that women are more likely to be harmed by men. We know that men are less we know these things, right?
We're conflating. That doesn't excuse somebody of absolving themselves of any wrongdoing in every relationship they've been in. Because that's what Madison was doing. And that's what we're talking about.
You felt like, I didn't think Madison was absolving herself.
She was. And I remember when we heard it on the TV, that was my first thought. Like, how is it that you're not the problem in any relationship that you've had? Because she's doing it here.
I understand what you're saying. Because I didn't, you know what it was? The reason why I didn't take it, I don't even think she had thought that far into her answer. That's why I didn't take it that way. Like, she was trying to absolve herself. Maybe she was.
I absolutely think she was.
Maybe she said it because she thought, if I say this, they'll be like, oh, that makes sense. You're an independent woman.
Yes.
And you're single.
Because what Dr. Pia, because the point that Dr. Pia was trying to make is, So you have a history of this.
Yes.
You have a history of being emotionally checked out on your relationships.
Yes.
Which Madison would have never admitted to.
Yes.
If Dr. Pia didn't put a stake in the ground and say, let's pause here.
Yes.
What you're telling me is that you actually have a history of doing this, of showing up in your relationships and being emotionally unavailable. That's what I'm saying. Because I'm sure if you asked Madison in a room where no one's there to hold her accountable, she would tell everyone it's them.
Allan. Yeah.
She would couch it as, well, men are intimidated by me being an independent woman.
Oh,
that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
These are statements that we hear a lot.
Okay, but let me push back, but not on your statement, but on an idea. I don't think these people are actually in relationships. The more I talk to people, adults in life who are dealing with other people, y'all do not be in relationships. Y'all be sleeping with people.
Yeah.
And y'all have feelings for the people y'all sleeping with. And we could call it a situationship, but that's really to make y'all feel good. The truth is, y'all are giving up all your resources for the bare minimum. And we're not talking about that. We're not talking about what it requires to be committed to somebody, because y'all really don't give a damn. And then y'all come on these shows and really want to step out and marry somebody at first sight, Michelle, and you don't have the tools to love yourself an ounce, let alone love someone else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I would say the same thing for Madison. I think that this obsession with your body and all these things like that.
In his body.
Hello. Like, imagine he had this same obsession with yours and was saying them arms is to this or you're to that or whatever. Like, we would have so many issues with this.
So many issues.
But I think the point I'm trying to make is that this was not the show for her. She was supposed to be on Love Island. She's not a serious human or a serious woman. And I don't give a damn what she do for a living. There was no forethought on this. She did not think about this at all, and she was quite literally only picked because she's good looking in Chicago. Now catch that, T. So they go on to play Twister, which was cute. I thought it would have been helpful if we did this with them 2 or 3 weeks ago, just to get the intimacy, the thoughts, the things going a bit, the activity going a bit. But it was really nice to see them playing a game and just hanging out, even though I did feel like she was counting the minutes till it was over.
Because I not only did I feel like that, but she's not believable. She's not a great actor, right? And I can tell at this point when she's being performative. And the Twister game was that for me.
It was performative.
When I feel like she's on when the cameras are on. And I feel like Allan is telling us she's off when the cameras are off.
And he is saying it in the most polite, respectful. He in the camera blinking twice.
I know.
He like winking at us like, y'all, she ain't here. She's
not here. To me? And when we go out to eat, she treats me like I'm not her husband.
Imagine you go out with somebody, even if you weren't. He said he felt like they were in 2 separate groups.
That's intentional.
That's intentional, right? Because you really was there just in case somebody saw you out. You ain't want them to think, oh, that's her man. Left him.
Well, right.
That's what she didn't want them to think.
It's giving you're ashamed of him.
It's high key that. And I'm going to tell y'all this, like, I'm not sure, but I'm telling y'all, it's nothing wrong with Allan.
It's not.
Like, it's nothing wrong with that man. You know what I mean? And even, like, he tall, he got so many things about him that I'm just like, what are we even doing here? But whatever, child. They played a Twister or whatever because the people told them to do it. There's no investment in this relationship at all. And the problem is that, unfortunately, these experts come out here and their time is money. And they basically wasting it talking to people like Madison and Allan, same girl. Madison and Allan, because although Allan wants to be in it, Madison is off somewhere flirting with somebody at a bar.
Madison is pretending.
For everybody. And she think we didn't catch that tea, but it's caught.
Yeah.
It's caught. Can we get into Camille and Thomas?
Yeah.
And let me say this. Camille, thank you, baby. When I said that this episode made me feel a little bit better, like they wasn't getting on my nerves, the truth of the matter is I was talking about you. Because you're my last hope. That's number one. Number two, I like Camille so much. She really could be my girlfriend. Yeah. So when I be talking to her and getting her together, y'all, on God, that's how I talk to my girlfriends. Am I lying?
Yeah.
I'm going to call you dumb. I'm going to call you stupid. You don't make no sense. I'm going to say all the things, but it's out of love because we got to land this plane, okay? And when I tell you, seeing her and Thomas together has been making me feel good. This episode had me, I was like kicking my legs and everything.
I think it's, for me, just the relief of not constantly talking about his blackness or lack thereof. And I think that my biggest gripe with Camille was you smothered this man with this one topic to the point where he can't even just exist and have a good time and enjoy you, which is what we saw this episode.
Yes.
Because he genuinely likes her. He's genuinely into her. He's genuinely into this process. And if you're not constantly telling him that he's not black enough, you see how he lights up when he's talking to her.
Oh my goodness.
All of these things are allowed to come through because she's not telling him that his R&B swag is low. And I think that's the biggest thing we saw. And
it was very, very exciting to see. And she had to get whatever kinks out or butterflies out that was making her nervous about being in a relationship with him. And although as a black person, it was hard for me to watch, I'm glad we're past it a bit. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie. I'm glad we're past it a bit. So they're stretching after football. And honestly, I think Thomas kind of like pulled something, but I also think he just wanted Camille to touch him. Either way, I liked it.
Because he's not the runner, and we could tell.
Hilarious. I liked it. Either way, I thought it was really cute. You know what I mean? Like that they take care of one another in that regard. And it's really, this is what I mean. I didn't even mind them going to the jewelry store, babe, and her picking out certain things for him and stuff like that. I was telling, because I thought when he was putting a little chain on and stuff, I was like, well, he looking all good. Even I thought she was, but I think I understand what she's saying about his confidence. The problem is that she equated it to his blackness.
Yes.
And that was the issue for me. Because you could tell
you could have led with
he
that.
started feeling like he looked better. He put his shoulders back, everything. That's different than coming at somebody's blackness.
And that's what we're telling. The issue is that this is what I wish she would have led with.
Camille would have led with, right.
Because when we're saying that these things about your spouse can be tweaked and changed, this is exactly what we're talking about.
In real time, that's what we were saying.
And we're talking about, it doesn't have to be a hard conversation with you using harsh words or you having them question their upbringing. We're talking about, you could have just on day one been like, hey, I bought you a little chain. We didn't have to get into like, well, I'm used to darker men than you. A little more rough around. We didn't have to get into this. We didn't have to do that. You could have took him to the jewelry store and got him a chain. You know what I mean? You didn't need to do all that. So that was how I was rolling my eyes. Because I'm like, we could have did this.
That I agree with, but some people got to get there in their own time, and I'm just glad you got there. You know what I mean? I'm just happy that Camille and Thomas got to a place where they could just have fun and it looked good. You know what I mean? Because I told Joe too, I like a little chain. I like when he on top of me and the chain is like in my face. Like, I love that. You know what I mean? So I understood it, girl. Like, I was picking up what she was putting down. I just ain't going to be telling my man he ain't black enough.
And that was why I was rolling my eyes, because now that you led with that, any gesture that you make,
you're taking it as like, this will make him blacken him up. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying, but I don't know, Camille, you my girl, and I'm just glad to see this is kind of blossoming into something beautiful. So Thomas gives Camille a massage, and let me tell you something. Thomas said, either I'm or we okay?
Yes, he did.
I'm getting them drawers tonight.
Yeah.
And he did, and I was very proud of him. But I told Joe, I'm so tired of men giving massages and thinking it's supposed to end with your penis knocking somebody upside the head. I'm bored with it.
He took initiative. So
he did take initiative, though. He put himself out there, and I was proud of that. I was really, really happy, and I'm glad that she was just like, let's just see what it's about. It was a little weird to say, but I also
was a little like, what? That's
kind of threw me off. Yeah, like, I was getting hot and bothered, and I was like, all right,
figure it out. What is happening?
Okay, she like, whatever, let's just go do it. But she did it, and apparently he did it well, because when I tell you Camille came back with a whole nother...
She had a new attitude.
What?
Yes, she did.
I didn't even know who she was.
I know, she was lighter, brighter, she was smiling, she wasn't talking about his R&B swag. No.
What? They in front of Dr. Pia, but you could tell they both needed it. There was there must have been tension there.
I know he felt tension and he felt awkward.
Yeah.
He's been questioning his culture for the past, 3-4 episodes. So it's just nice to exist. And I think that's what I was trying to get at when because I had a conversation with that same part of that same couple about just participating when you're in a rough area. It's very important to just do light things.
Yes.
Participate in silly stuff that's not that deep. You know what I mean? That's what I was talking about when we were watching M and K when he alluded to something like that. I was saying to Zar, like, he has a point, because so many great things just come from you just doing something that ain't deep.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know, yo. Thomas and Camille is just far in ahead than everybody. This really should just be called the Thomas and Camille show. No. Because they are, I mean it, because, and if I'm being honest, if they both say yes on decision day, I feel like they are, this franchise, something is happening to this franchise that I don't, and I don't think it's the production. I think it's the people. I want to be clear about that. This new age group of people are like just different. And I think that it's hard to produce people who are used to producing their own content.
Yeah.
Okay. We've come through like almost 20 seasons of this where it went from nobody really producing their own content to like everybody's got their own little world that they're creating or whatever. But when you see two people who just like, these are two people to me who wanted to be married.
Yeah.
And just didn't see each other in the world, and now they're placed together.
And I think it's something to that before we got to the place where everybody had their own brand.
Yes.
Everybody's a conglomerate now. And I think that has soured, the pool when they're pulling for people to be on the show. I think I see it with Madison, you know what I mean? I see it with Michelle, how she gets upset with certain stuff, partly because I feel like
it's all about what she wants.
It's all about how she is perceived.
Yes.
And I think
it's all about how she is perceived.
The genuineness of the older seasons was just people just showing up as themselves and seeing how it went. Yes.
And if there's such a lack of that. So one of the things that, Thomas said that I thought was so loving to say, he said, Camille impresses me every day. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was just so loving. You know what I mean? Because he's around her, and you can see as she's talking the way he's looking at her, and you know what I mean? Y'all know he got like that sleepy face, but he still looks so alive and awake.
Well, because he does light up, and I like that. This is something that she could learn from him. I like that he leads with the positive stuff. He's human like the rest of them. I'm sure he has things that he doesn't love about her, or things that he would change, but he never leads with that. And that was my issue with the whole blackness thing. Yeah. Because you just met this man. There's so many things that you could be talking about or giving him accolades. Right. Building. You got to build somebody up before they even are open to giving you a place to critique them.
Right. Like, you can't be making debits.
Right.
You have to make withdrawals. You can't be making withdrawals. You have to make deposits.
Right.
And I think that there was a little more withdrawing
1,000%.
than there was depositing in the positive account. And I feel like, just hearing how they both speak about each other, I really do believe that Camille will fall in love with Thomas because she said, if things keep going the way that they are, I think that being intimate, physically intimate, was a barrier for them. And now that they got through it, you know what I mean? I think that now you get that, now you really can be comfortable.
It definitely just untenses the air a little bit. And I can sense that on Thomas for sure.
And her. I can sense it more on her than I do Thomas. Like, I feel like he was always going to be that guy. But she needed to be knocked between the nightstand and the headboard in order for things to start clicking with her. And that's okay.
But I feel like he was walking on eggshells. I feel like he seemed lighter.
He probably is lighter, literally and figuratively. Okay. Right. But I also think that, like, the way Camille was speaking, we had never seen this woman speak about that man ever before.
1,000%.
I said, Thomas did his big one. Okay? Thomas said, who ain't black enough? That's what Thomas said, okay? And I was proud of him. And I was proud of Camille. And I was annoyed, Camille, because I knew you could get here. And now that I've seen it, I'm like, yes, girl, we about to be happily married out here, living our lives and keeping it moving, okay? Don't be letting these people around you take you down.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Juan and Carla. Juan do not like Carla. And it ain't nothing you, me, or anybody else is going to say to make him like Carla.
You know what? I honestly think Carla is growing increasingly unattractive to Juan. I don't think it started out that way.
I don't either.
Think as he gets to know her, as he lives with her, I think she is growing a little bit more unattractive to her. And I don't even mean purely in physical. I just mean like as a whole.
And everybody's in the comments. Y'all asking us, well, what are your eyes closed? You can't see that he's not attracted to her. Two things are going on. Carla is a universally beautiful woman. Full stop. You know what I mean? So do I believe he finds her physically unattractive? No.
No. And I
don't believe
And when
that.
when they first got to the honeymoon, they didn't. He didn't know her. We can't pretend like we all haven't been here before.
Come on.
Where we saw somebody at a party or at a club or whatever and thought before they opened their mouth, they were cute. They were gorgeous. Especially women. I know y'all have met men.
I've never done it.
I know y'all met men. You never done what?
I'm kidding. No, go ahead. I never said. I have to be cerebrally. No.
I'm just saying on face value, you've probably met a guy before who you thought, oh, this guy's handsome. And then he opened his mouth. And the more he talked, he became increasingly unattractive to you.
That's why I don't talk to men.
Okay. So we've all experienced this before.
Yeah.
I think this is exactly what Juan is going through.
I think that's what Juan is going through, but I also feel like he's rigid. And I feel
Two things
like
would be true, yeah.
Although he may feel like she's not I think he has these hard lines.
Yes, I do too.
These unrealistic expectations. This woman is, by all accounts, she's a stunning woman physically. She does have some things about her that I feel like, okay, he went for a bike ride. He came home at 1:00. She was still asleep.
Because, and I'm going to say this, I don't think his expectations are unrealistic. I think he has rigid expectations and he needs to be more open about everything. But I don't think, because I think when he came home, he thought, this lazy ass. I think he's coming to the realization that I think this is how he feels. So this is not my opinion this is my observation on Carla. I think he feels like she's lazy. I think he feels like she's not goal-oriented. I think he feels like she's not very domestic. I think...
Yeah, because he is always cooking.
So this is what I mean by I think she is increasingly becoming unattractive to him. And I just mean as a whole. I don't even mean in a superficial way.
This is so random. And this is so random, y'all, so I'm sorry. Why do I hate when people say, like, oh, I'm domestic? I'm domestic. Why do I hate that?
I don't know. You said that.
I've said it. And I think hindsight being 2020, I don't like it. That's what I'm saying. Like, why does that bother me?
I don't know.
I don't know. Just popped in my brain. Literally just in this moment. I was like, oh, I don't like the way they're saying. But I've said it and thought the same thing. The problem is that if Juan was a woman, I would understand what he was saying.
Full stop. I want you to stop there. I think most of you would. And I think the issue that the comments are having with Juan is that he has a penis. Because if these roles were reversed and Juan was Juanita, right? And Juanita met this guy who was on face value gorgeous, loved him. And then everybody's having a good time when you're on an island in Mexico or whatever, right? So they're having an amazing time. And then Juanita gets home and notices that her man seems unmotivated, undeveloped. Everybody would absolutely understand why somebody would be like, I'm just not feeling it.
However, the reason why I think I'm having a hard time with it is because I know so many women, and I don't think this is the right thing to do. I'm just having a hard time with it because of what the culture is. Women will contort themselves into a pretzel for somebody they find good looking. And they don't even know they're doing it. I've seen so many successful black women contort themselves into a pretzel. They will come. It's an epidemic. They will come into the relationship, tell you what they ain't going to do. But the moment he over 6 something, he handsome, he this, he that, they doing everything they said they wasn't going to do. Because
that is, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That's a vast difference in a lot of men and women's dating styles.
And I think that's what we're seeing.
But we say it all the time to these singles. Men do not have the same standards as y'all. And I think,
and they have boundaries. They have better boundaries than y'all. The difference is not just that You know what I mean? Men will laugh and say, yeah, I'll put up with it if she fine enough. No, they won't.
No, they won't.
No, they won't. That's a motherfucking lie, okay? They going to put up with it, go get somebody else, start grooming that person to be the person, and then the moment that person is set up, ready and ready to go, all right, cutie, you got to get the hell out of here. We just saw this happen
with the boy Alex, with the girl Alex on the Netflix show. The girl Alex, what was was it Love is Blind? We just saw it happen with Alex and her husband on Love is Blind.
Precisely.
It was the same situation.
Because he know he that guy. So I already know I'm a winner. I didn't need you to be cute and come over here and do a damn thing. So you want to act up, be a fool, do all this, you can get the hell on.
He was like,
and the difference is that they think more of themselves than y'all think of yourselves. So the reason why I'm having a hard time with this, because I speak to black women, and I'm saying black women specifically because I find that I don't have this conversation with my other friends. That's not the issues that they having. But when I'm speaking to black women, specifically the successful ones, the stuff they go through with people who they think is the prize is so silly to me.
I couldn't agree more.
But on the other side, the men are not doing that.
Yeah.
You want to act a fool, you can go do that on your own. I don't give a damn.
It don't matter how fine you are.
And that's a boundary for them. You know what I mean? And we'll move the goalpost. So when I speak about Juan, it's so fascinating because he's just a man with a boundary. He is not into it because it's not looking, sounding, quacking, nothing the way that he expected it to do.
1,000%.
And so he's cut off. The problem I have with that is we waited too long for the intervention.
1,000%. This is something that they could have attacked very early on.
And they're not asking pointed questions to Juan.
Yeah.
Nobody's just asking him straight up like, okay, what does that... Only Dr. Pia on episode 9 have we seen her say,
yes,
well, what does that look like to you?
Yes.
What do you mean by that? Like, no, we should be pulling these people to the side alone early on in this process, yes, and getting a download and debrief. Because I find that the experts come in with not enough information, even though they've seen it on TV or whatever. We don't know what's going on in these people's minds, and we know that they will produce a show because they did it on y'all last season.
They absolutely did.
So we know that they'll do it and be in cahoots with each other to get it done. So we got to break these people apart and really establish a deep connection with the experts. The reason why they were able to produce the show without any of us knowing is because they had no allegiance to the experts or anybody else.
At all.
None, right? So now we've established that. I don't give a what you come in here and say, Dr. Pia, Pastor Kyle, or Dr. Pepper. I don't care.
And they had the room to be in cahoots in the scheme.
And they had the room to
because
do it.
When you
and I'm saying don't even give them the room.
1,000%. Because when you are vigilant and you snuffing things out as it happens, you don't allow them to have these board meetings that they was having last season where they was getting together off camera and then making production plans.
And
you don't give them an opportunity.
That would make the shift. I would argue just that small tweak, pulling these people apart separately. Let's have a separate conversation. Not with the producers, like we on Real Housewives. I'm saying with Dr. Pepper, tell me what's going on. How you feeling? What's your mental like? Whatever. If we're doing that every week, I believe we go from seeing one successful couple at the end of the 2 months to one unsuccessful couple.
1,000%. Because part of my issue is, soon as they get home from the honeymoon, they're left to their own devices to do whatever the hell bullshit that they want to do. And then you get couples like David and Michelle, who she never even moved into the apartment when they got home.
Exactly.
She immediately said, no, I don't want to be here. And also, do I not want to be here? We're going to sleep in separate rooms when I am here. And so then they're in that mode from day one until the time that they actually speak to somebody and they go, well, you should probably be moving like a married couple. Exactly.
And also that's got to be in the contract.
It should be, because why come here? Because what is the point of this if I'm going to allow you to get married, go on a honeymoon, come home, and then date? Right. Literally, we've seen couples try to reverse the process where they go through a wedding, they get to the honeymoon, and then they come home and they go, well, I'm going to go back to my place, and then you can go back to your place, and then we'll meet up for dates and coffee dates and stuff like that. That's not the show. I absolutely agree that there should be some type of contractual obligation where these people, if they want to film, we're not forcing nobody.
We only get one bedrooms.
We only get one bedrooms. If you want to film, if you want to get your little stipend or whatever that they're giving you, you have to show up. You have to sleep in the same room. You have to stay in the same apartment. There is no
day one.
There is no going back to your place. Well, I had to go back to my place last night because I just
unless you're in imminent danger.
You have to be,
and that has to be proven.
Right. Right.
Like, it can't just be like, oh, no, I ain't feel like it. Oh, I was this, I was that.
Yeah,
No. Because
yeah.
then that leaves y'all up to your own devices. And because we're in a period of everybody producing themselves, you almost have to think about what they will try to do in order to produce it and get and circumvent that.
Yeah.
So Carla tells, I think this gave us more insight into who Carla is. She says she's from a big Mexican family. She comes from immigrant parents, okay? And they're not having deep conversations. And they're not showing emotion in the household. And they're not being affectionate. And that's why she is the way she is today. She felt like the only emotion that she ever used to show was anger. And now, you know, she's done some work on herself. And I believe she has. And she's like, no, now I can say I have the full suite of, you know what I mean, emotions. But I also can say that I need affection. And that's okay. I went through, you know, when you're not being affectionate with me, Juan, it makes me feel like I've regressed back to my home where we didn't have that. And I thought she explained it perfectly. I was so proud of her for being vulnerable. And I still don't think it meant a damn thing to Juan.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. I think that because these are separate issues, and to our point of, you know, attacking these issues earlier, this should have been uncovered and tried to have somebody try to do a deep dive into these issues, because Juan and Carla are having separate issues. Carla's issue with Juan is not Juan's issue with Carla.
But that's why we need the separation.
Yes.
And I'm telling y'all, I remember having a conversation with our therapist, and she just was like, we need to talk alone. Like, you know what I mean? And part of it is because I can see you either mincing your words, or I'm not getting the full story and I need to hear where you're really coming from, kind of thing. And I feel like in this case, Juan would be more forthright. Juan is the king of smoke and mirrors. He's going to tell you one thing and do another until he's in a room with somebody who's smarter than him. And then they like, no, what does that mean? Like, you don't get to
He's very, very cautious with his words, especially when Carla's in a room.
And that is omission. And omission can be seen as a lie. When omission is also a lie. You have to, and in this case, when we're so early in this, it can't just be all good and great. Oh, well, she's a beautiful girl, and I think she's a beautiful person, but I just don't have chemistry. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that even mean? And the problem is that in your attempt to not be a mean person, you are damaging this person further. You think, oh, well, I'm not saying the nasty things. I'm not, being rude or whatever the case may be, so it can't be that bad. But it almost gaslights the human into thinking about everything that could be wrong with them. Yeah. Instead of you just saying what the hell it is.
But it's also...
Michelle.
It's also absolving you of your responsibility to show up in a relationship and to be transparent about what's going on in your head, right?
Right.
And I think that we need... The reason why it's so important to me for the experts to be more involved earlier on is because that becomes a crutch for a lot of them, and they don't have the tools to have these hard conversations on their own, many of them, and that's to no fault of their own. Especially when you don't know somebody, you don't feel comfortable just telling them what it is. You know what I mean?
1,000%. And
that's a muscle. That take a muscle to even have those conversations without a wall going up or a defense or a race to the bottom. That's why you need somebody to come in and help navigate, have those hard conversations. Yeah.
And that's the problem. We're giving them games. We're not helping them have hard conversations.
Yeah, we quick to give them a card game.
We quick to do that, right? But the truth is, we need to be having the hard conversations, and we're not doing that. And had Carla not brought that up on her own, who's to say when we ever hear it?
Yeah.
Who's to say? She fixed that problem. Dr. P and them wasn't even around.
Right.
So who's to say when that happens if she just doesn't advocate for herself in that moment?
Right.
And like I said, this is not a dig on Juan. I think he just has his mind made up about what he wants.
Yeah.
And a partner, and he may not be receiving that from Carla at this point. I'm not like a physical touch person. It's not my first thing to do, and I tell y'all that all the time. But I just realized how important it is. Physical touch is to a relationship. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because even if Joe walked by me, don't touch my butt, even I'm thinking like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? For real. Like, so there's something to that nonverbal communication. And I think we also bury the lead on that.
Yeah.
Communication is almost majority nonverbal.
Yeah.
So she's saying that I want to feel you when I don't hear you. And he is not getting that. Like, she's not saying, I need you to tongue me down. She's saying a little touch here, a little touch here, a little touch here. That's moving this thing forward. And he just doesn't seem like he is ready to do that. So Juan and Carla meet with Dr. Pia. And Dr. Pia brings up the fact that Carla hasn't introduced Juan to her family. How do you feel about that? Her parents.
I didn't like that. To me, it seems one foot in, one foot out. It seems like, well, I'm going to maybe introduce you, when I know that we're going to, you have to be bought out and sold out into this process, right? Yeah. You're not here, like I said, you're not here to get married and then date, right? Yeah. That's my issue with something that Ikechi said, where MM said, it's like he's trying to see if we're going to be married. Right. No, you're already married. Whether you like it or not, you're married. That's what you signed up for. So you have to go through this process all out, 100% committed. And to me, it just kind of showed that you kind of one foot in and one foot out, playing it safe.
Okay. I don't have any thoughts on this for real. She said that the real thing is that she it's not that she wanted to make sure that it was serious before. And I'm going to be honest. I believe if him and her were further along in the way that she wants to be, the touching and this and that, he would have been met her parents.
But you can't do that. I believe it too, but you can't do that.
I agree.
You can't sit here and put stipulations on it, because it's not, we're asking each other to show up wholeheartedly. So we can't then piece it together on, well, you can do this if he does this. If they do that, we can't do that. You got to just be in it for. You only got like 8 weeks. You just got to be sold out for whatever the actual
8 weeks are. Yes. That's the truth. I have thoughts, but I be going in on Juan, and it's out of love. Because I really like Juan. I just don't. I get it. The more we have these conversations and I see them interact, and I get why he may be having like a little bit of a block. It's the fact that he's an immovable force. But I think somebody said he's an Aquarius. And if he is, that also might be the issue that I have with him. Mm-hmm. You remember, I ain't going to say who used to date him, but my girlfriend used to date him. And he just was always aloof. He always had these, like, he spoke to her like he was Yoda. And I used to be like, girl, my biggest issue with Juan is that men have a way of being honest when they want to be honest. Not honest, transparent. That's the word I want to use. They have a way of being transparent when they want to be transparent. He's being honest. He's not being transparent.
I wholeheartedly agree.
And that's what's frustrating. And it's like, now I have to look through what you're saying to get the transparency, or try to come to some kind of idea why you wouldn't care or like or whatever.
But that's also a skill, and that's also why, not to beat a dead horse, but why it's imperative to have counseling, especially early on.
Because they break that down.
They break that down, and sometimes it does need to be pulled out of you when you don't have the tools. Sometimes you just do not have the tools to know how to communicate your feelings, express your feelings in a thoughtful and full out manner. Like, you would be surprised how many adults can't do that to this day.
And this is a dig on Juan, and I'm sorry, Juan, love you, boo, but I'm tired of my filter is coming down. As a person who's going to extensive therapy, because I really do kind of resonate with Juan in how he's like, he chooses his words and everything like that. The more I've gone to therapy, the easier I find it to say whatever I want to out my mouth.
That's why I'm advocating for more interaction with counselors.
Because I
think that he can learn this.
Right, because therapy also teaches you how being honest doesn't have to be rude. Yes. Being honest doesn't have to be mean. Yes. You just learn to speak about what is serving you. Yes. And I think that a lot of people, I don't think this is a Juan, singular to Juan. I think a lot of people are missing out on that, advocating for themselves in that regard. Yes. Because he thinks what he's doing is saving Carla, but it's at a disadvantage of himself.
And them as a couple.
Right. And if you think you're going to leave here with a Metro PCS commercial, Juan, because you fine.
Which I don't think that of him. I really don't. I don't think he's here for the vibes.
I wouldn't put it past him. Let me say that.
I'm gonna be honest. The more we do this a lot. So I think that my imposter radar is high. It's sharper than it was when we first started doing this. I'll say that at least, right? Juan doesn't give that to me. I'm not saying that he is or he isn't. I'm just saying my opinion is that he's not here for a Metro PCS ad. I think that the more I listen to them and watch their interactions and just see little things that they do.
He just don't like her. And that's
I've seen this.
I've been trying to tell
I've seen this happen before.
Yeah.
Where somebody that I knew who was in a relationship with somebody, they were married. They were married too. And they became increasingly unattracted to their wife for almost the same reasons that I feel like, even when Ryan, it was very telling when Juan, it's a little truth in every joke, right? Juan comes in a house from his bike ride, has his phone out, is doing the selfie cam or whatever. And he's like, it's 1 o'clock and she's just getting up crazy, right? That literally annoyed him. He's like, I did all of these things. By 1 o'clock, I had 4 meetings. I did this, that, and the third. I went for a bike ride. Yeah. I came home and she's still getting her ass out of bed and I still ain't got nothing to eat. Like, I'm sure these things are happening in his brain. I personally know somebody who got divorced because of this.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, like, I've seen this before. And then the more, I don't believe that he has the tools to really be transparent. He's not being transparent.
And so that's what I'm saying.
So I'm also reading, but I'm trying to read between the lines and I'm trying to piece things together. And these are things that I'm just piecing together.
And I think that, Joe, that's why I don't put it past him. Because if it was more transparency, then I would be for sure like, I'm just saying I'm not gonna put it past.
But I
think he a little bit better than Metro PCS. He might be on a little like arm around.
I don't think that's
side,
I don't think that's his vibe. I think the reason why I'm not attributing that to his lack of transparency is because I truly believe that he does not have the tools to do these things. He doesn't know how to. It is a muscle sometimes. It is a muscle. Like actually learning how to be straightforward with your feelings, talk to your spouse, dig in, even knowing how you feel yourself. You know what I mean? Carla also did it. Dr. Pia asked her something and she said, I don't know. She said, I don't know. And so I think that it is a tool, especially for newlywed couples, to figure out how to communicate these things. And I don't think that he has. That's why I'm advocating for more counseling.
Dr. Pia asked Juan and Carla, does this feel like a marriage? And Juan says, I mean, we in it. And that tickled my soul. Okay, that tickled my soul. And Carla says she just doesn't feel like it's a romantic connection. And he just said he doesn't feel like it's comfortable to like hold hands and to be physical in that regard. And he told her to her face, I think you're a beautiful girl, but he just doesn't have that like chemistry, that thing that makes him want to do those things. And how do you get deeper? You know what I mean?
I believe, and we talked about this maybe with another show, men, intelligent, good men, are a lot more cerebral than the general public gives them credit for. I think that Juan's like for someone in a typical relationship gets deeper through conversation, through action and interaction. I don't think that Juan, just like you said, I think you and Juan are more alike in that way than different. Where
I think so.
You understand what I'm
absolutely
you understand
correct.
what I'm saying?
Where you're going, I think you're correct. Because I'm cerebral in that way.
And I think Juan, if he had his pick for this show, which you signed up to marry a stranger, so you didn't have your pick. But I think if he had his pick for his show, his woman would be a 3 degree down, engineer, professor. And I think his closeness and his chemistry with that person would go up, because I think he's a lot more cerebral. Just people don't look at men and think, people just, oh, she's pretty, so why don't you like her?
And
it's
that's
like,
how I feel. I am that simple.
I'm not that way. I left a baddie who was not there all the way. You know what I mean? So I can understand why from that standpoint, where I was with somebody who was drop dead and I was just like, can't do it. Gotta go. You know what I mean? For a lot of those similar reasons.
I feel like I'm not somebody who dates. I've never dated guys because they look good. So that's why I get where Juan is coming from. I'm thinking from, like, if I were a man, I would be so attracted to her. But the other part of me understands exactly where he's coming from, because you being fine really don't do shit for me. It just don't. And I tell people that all the time. It has nothing. That don't do nothing for me. And if it's not serving me, I don't really give a damn about it. You know what I mean?
Especially when you have so many of these attributes that I believe that they might be looking for in a spouse, right? You're a go-getter. You're self-motivated. You're in shape. You're this, that, and the third. You have, like I said, if Juan was a woman, we wouldn't have to explain this.
And that's just the truth. You know what I mean? And I think we would see it differently if Carl... But then again, I like to see women just existing. I don't know.
I don't think Juan does. I think Juan...
That's clear.
I think Juan was literally having a conversation with her about starting her business, and I could visibly see his penis shriveling up into his body.
Because he was like, so you want to...
And his face was just like that. So...
be an entrepreneur? You know they take a lot of work, right?
And in that moment, he was thinking, you can't do that and only wake up at 1 p.m. Like, I could visibly see how his attraction level was dropping like a video game. Like, as he was having conversation with her, it was just dropping. I could see it on the screen. I think
he's just not giving it a chance.
I also think he's not as open as he should be. So I agree. But
I do get where he's coming from. It's just sad to see. Other than that, they ain't really give us nothing else, Juan and Carla. Let's get into and K. They getting on my goddamn nerves.
100%.
Basically, Ikechi is annoyed with because want to ask him questions. And she keeps asking him questions because he doesn't answer her questions. So she's never getting up off the questions because she's not getting an answer. Are you all picking up what I'm putting down? So they go out to dinner. They have dinner. At dinner, she's asking him questions. She's asked him before and got no answer. Or got some crazy Yoda stupid ass answer that we've seen him give her. And he must have been fed up that day.
Because he was fed up.
He was fed up, okay? And he said, don't you say another good word. Now, I'm not sure he said that, but he was close, okay? Now, this obviously gives pause. He's not giving anything from my purview. What do you think about him getting upset with her for asking questions at dinner?
I think there's nuance here, and I think two things could be true. I think you have to be in a place where you can just enjoy each other. And I think that's what I understood in certain parts of their conversation, especially with Dr. Pia. And I think she did too. I understood what Ikechi was getting at in that line of questioning of like, just like we were talking about with Tom and Camille and how they were lighter because every session, every time we saw them on TV, it wasn't about how he's not black enough.
Yeah.
And so then they got a chance to just be around each other. And then you just get to talk about, is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not? And there's so many jokes and little inside jokes and little things that come from just doing nothing, which is what he meant when he said the nothingness comment, right?
Because the nothingness comment comes when Dr. Pia asked them about how he would like to communicate. How does that show up for him? And he said that sometimes just doing nothing.
Yes, and I just took that as just vibing, which we talked about before. We talked about a couple who was on it was one of the Netflix shows, and I think it was an Ultimatum. And I said, this couple... It was
Arya and Caleb on the
And I
Ultimatum.
said, this couple is dangerous because they didn't really pick each other. But they, to me, were building the strongest bond because they was just vibing with each other. That's what I mean by there's something to that. You need that aspect of just to kind of get to know each other, right? On the flip side of that, similar to Juan and Carla's situation, you have to communicate. Communication is so key. Being transparent is so key. And Carla and are very similar in that they can only but do so much if they don't know what's going on with their spouse and in his head.
One thing I'm very good at is when I talk, I know when I can talk to a man for a certain amount of seconds and minutes and know if he good or not. I'm like that barometer on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory where they set the little girl on top and it was like good, bad, or rotten or good, and it was like rotten and they dropped that egg. There's something going on with Ikechi that because he's an educated man, we think he good, he is not. Because the idea that you would get up there, There was so much wrong with this episode to me. I couldn't even, my skin was crawling. You sat in this grown woman's face and proceeded to say, because she made an advance at you sexually after you put her hand on your genitals, that she was the problem, she being too aggressive, she's this or that. Do you know how vile and disgusting that is?
But that's also my issue, because I also felt like this happened weeks ago or whatever, or however long they said it happened ago. That's something that should be talked about. Because even MM in the moment was like, I didn't know that was an issue for you, like initiating whatever sexual contact they had or whatever. That's something that you should immediately be like, okay, let's talk to somebody about.
But is that not a part of nothingness? Is not a part of just vibing, touching on each other?
I honestly think that they are having an issue not only with communication, but with the transparency aspect, similar to Juan and Carla, how I think something happened. This is why I think stuff is festering. There's a snowball. Yes. Something happened where I think when they were on the honeymoon, they were vibing with each other. I do think that. You know what I mean? And I think they got home and something happened, and it started to make Ikechi not be into the process and not be into MM. And now we finding out about this stuff way too late. And now it feels like it's snowballing even in the session, because I feel like MM couldn't even, I feel like she was getting so much information that she didn't know that it was hard for her to even address some of the things that were being said.
But that's also manipulative to me, because your information is now currency. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. See, she's been asking him questions for weeks and has not been getting the answer. This bothers me because they are a black couple, and I see what's about to happen. And I hate having foresight, because I'm not saying you may not have wanted to have sex. That's one thing. Okay, I don't want to have sex. I do it all the time. But to act like this woman was a predator, to use the kind of language as if she was accosting you, that to me is low down and dirty. And MM is a better bitch than me, because she should have not taken it. There's no way. I'm glad she said, well, you put your hands there first. I thought that's the kind of touching was okay because you initiated it. Which, is that the nothingness that you wanted? You were just speaking about how, things grow out of nothingness. That's what you were talking about, no?
Honestly, I don't even think they are there.
I don't think he believes. I don't think Ikechi believes a word that comes out his own mouth, but I think he wants us to believe it. I don't, for 2 seconds, believe. I'm so tired of hearing, I'm a Southern man. Child. I'm a Southern man, and she just aggressive. This city girl act is aggressive. The truth of the matter is they came home, and he couldn't be, on vacation Ikechi. He had to be a real one, and he can't do that. That's the truth. That's the truth. Because I'm having a hard time with him. He's manipulative.
I really want to know what happened when they came home, because I think, like you said, it's too many gaps. And it's too many gaps. And it's too much time that has gone on where we don't know.
All she want to do is initiate.
Why we ain't got the goddamn nanny cams?
Come on.
Because then we can, you know what I mean? See.
But I'm almost of the belief they don't make them sign off. If they don't sign off on the contract, then
but they had it. It's so funny because when we got home,
Ultimatum, which is the same producers, by the way.
But when we get back from the honeymoon, the first thing we see is Allan and Madison's nanny cam. When she tells him, "I'm going out and I'm not going to be long," we're seeing that on the goddamn.
I don't understand why there's no nanny cam. I don't get it. We're missing too much, and I want to go there with Ikechi, like, I want to just vibe and all this BS. But as a woman in the world, I'm telling y'all this. If a man uses the word organic with you, he on some bullshit. I just wanted to be organic. If he say,
they all saying that bullshit.
That's bullshit.
They all saying, well, it's just not organic.
Come on. Let me tell y'all something. Y'all can take this to the grave. Organic tomatoes and organic spinach are not raised the same way. So now what? It's not organic. It's a process. You know what I mean? Like, and y'all don't get that. The outcome is organic.
And this is the process that you sign up for, where you are literally signing up to do things that do not come natural, like marrying a stranger, right? Marrying a stranger isn't an organic, natural thing, right? So that's part of why you have to let go and let yourself really be fully invested into the process, because you're going to be doing things that don't feel comfortable. The hand holding, the conversations, sleeping in the bed with a stranger. That's not organic either. That's not that. So, but this is what we was talking about when we started the video, how this week, not this week, but this season, there's a lot of complaining about doing things that absolutely come with the process of signing up to marry a stranger.
Like, and let me tell you what's weirder to me, Joe, and I really want to come off my high horse. You're trying to tell me you went through this arduous process of answering all these questions all this time, only to meet the person that you're going to be paired with and then try to not answer any of their questions in an effort to get to know you? Is that what we're saying? Because it's only in an effort to get to know you. And I think, and I'll give EKG some room, right? Maybe he's of the belief it's in her effort to control some aspect of this, or whatever the case may be, but he's mirroring that same action, if he thinks that is what is doing, by not communicating with her.
Yeah. It's a tug of war of control.
It's a tug of war of control. And I think the problem is that you're trying to control the situation, not realizing, Ikechi, you've already won. is not trying to give you no smoke. If you there would not be a world in which a man, scum of the earth, gum on the bottom of my shoe, would sit in my face and say, "You moving too fast. You trying to touch on me, and I told you no." And I would ever continue a conversation with him. I find it to be so. As a person who has been accosted, I find that is such a to accuse someone of that. Even if it's just like, I don't want to be touched or whatever the case may be, is wild to me. I believe that in his own right, Ikechi is producing. And what we are seeing is that those who are trying to produce get the worst at it. And that's the unfortunate part, because I don't think Ikechi is a bad guy. I think that what he's doing is in an effort to produce another way, and it's not going in his favor. So the way we're seeing him on the screen is not a good look. Because you're a black man in the world talking about you want a black woman, you want this, you want that. And to me, she's unprotected. And that's how I feel. I'd have got that Social Security number, ran the American Express, Capital One. I'd have ran that up, and I hit him every 7 years over the head. Just when he think I'm up off that ass, I'm hitting him over the head again. Okay? Because you're not going to ever embarrass me like that. Do you know what that does for a professional woman like Ikechi? You get one time. Because you ain't really been getting on my nerves, baby. But this is low. It's low. Like they resolved it with Dr. Pia. What do you think, Jeff?
They didn't really resolve it, because then they said that they went back and really didn't talk. So this is what I mean by like them being able to run amok. But because also it wasn't enough structure given to me post the counseling session. At least Madison and Allan got a goddamn game. Like, give them an assignment.
At least they got a goddamn game.
Hold them accountable to doing something, right? At the point that you sit in front of this couple and realize that they are not doing anything to actively get to know each other, give them something.
Y'all gotta watch couples therapy on Showtime, y'all. This therapy, Joe can't watch it. It's heavy. When I tell you, it is art, and I'm gonna tell you why. This doctor is so good. She is so good, and she'll listen. Just the way I just crashed out, she will listen to people crash out and then say, "Now, you see how that's an issue, right?" Like, you know what I mean? Because you have to get to the people. It's not enough of that. Ikechi has a problem sharing, and nobody is talking about it like it's an issue. He has an issue sharing. To your point, why the hell they ain't get a goddamn game?
Right.
They should have got a game of questions in the same way that Madison and Allan did.
Some type of homework, some type of structure.
Let's move on to Michelle and David. Michelle and David go get their brows done. Even his brows don't look good enough.
Everything. She got a problem with everything, and she's really late. She's really doing her damnness to lay the case that he ain't shit. And I think in her mind, up until the conversation with Dr. Pia, she thinks it's going well. I'm doing a good job of making the case that he shouldn't be desirable.
Oh, and
Absolutely.
She's doing the exact opposite. Let me tell you something. The brow lady is a paid actor. That lady don't know that woman. I don't give a damn what you say. The first thing you say out your mouth is, well, you already know by now. She's so positive.
Yeah, you don't know her.
It's about 1 million of us watching this every goddamn week.
Yeah.
Not near one of us know that about her.
Yeah.
Okay?
No one
Not
would say
near
that.
one of us.
No.
I would, as a matter of fact, it would probably be the very last term or the very first term I would use to describe what she ain't. How about that?
Yeah, you don't know her.
You don't know. You couldn't possibly. She's sitting up there like, oh, you just got to give her a little space to figure things out. She take a while to warm up. Then why she get married at first sight? Why did Michelle choose to get married at first sight?
But this is more of signing up for something and then complaining about what you signed up for. Everything about this was implied that you would have to go through the process and go through the process with a person who you weren't not necessarily emotionally attached to, or somebody who you weren't familiar with, or because she's another one who's constantly talking about how it's not organic. She just don't feel it. She doesn't have the chemistry. She using that word.
Love
the
that
chemistry
word.
isn't there. The connection isn't there. And that is her excuse. And you could look at it on her face. She's like genuinely confused as to why Dr. Pia or somebody else doesn't fully understand why that isn't a valid excuse for why she hasn't shown up in her marriage.
What I do appreciate about Michelle, and this is why I'm not going to give her too much this week, even though I want to, but Ikechi took the cake, Michelle, so you won. What I do appreciate about her is that she reached out to have a conversation with Dr. Pia alone. And I thought that was important because she knows something is wrong. I think, you know how I be like, I'm mentally ill. I be going through stuff or I be snapping. I'm like, I'm mentally ill. I be having moments sometimes where I'm like, I know something is wrong. And I think she is experiencing that right now.
I even think that was performative. I think they're producing themselves, and the biggest producers on this show is Madison and Michelle. And I believe that she reached out in order to make herself look better. You know what I mean? I don't think she does talk about organic. I don't think she does anything that's genuinely organically a positive, for David or them as a couple. I really don't. I think everything she does is with herself at the forefront of it, to the best interest of her and her brand and her identity and how she shows up on camera.
She sits down and she talks to Dr. Pia and she just says, she sees David as being her town, like somebody from her town. He reminds her of her past, and
She's
to
triggered.
her, that's failure. Okay?
But this is exactly what you was talking about when you said earlier that people will have issues that have nothing to do with their spouse.
Nothing.
You triggered by David don't have nothing to do with David.
It really has
He's
nothing
just
to do
existing
with
and living his life and being a part of this process.
being a gregarious, sweet, kind man. That's all he's doing. And the truth of the matter is, the issue I have with this conversation is her. Michelle speaks about her lifestyle as if she is like the pinnacle. We saw where you live. We all saw where you live.
And David did too. And he thinks it's simple.
So what are we talking about
I don't
here?
know.
You know what I mean?
You're not going to get him not
We
to.
all saw where you live. And I wouldn't give a damn if you lived in, on the Miracle Mile, whatever the hell they call it. I wouldn't give a damn if you live right on there or right on the water. We know you don't live on the water. How about that?
We know
You don't live on the water because I saw your view. Okay? So it's like, for me, what is this life you've curated?
I don't know, because she does.
It's giving middle class.
She does very much so speak like she started a company in her basement and that company grew to become Amazon.
So because,
like, that's how she speaks.
And it's very much a Bezos, okay?
Yeah.
Because I needed to understand who she was, where she came from, I Googled what she did for a living, okay? Because I'm like, I get it. I'm a corporate baddie damn, okay? I went and looked. She's an executive assistant she was once an executive assistant at X. And I'm giving y'all her business because I need y'all to know, like, what the thought process is. And now she's an executive assistant for some company that only got 65 employees. And I'm saying that on purpose, that the company has 65 employees, because where you think she falling at? I'm saying that on purpose, okay? Even if she was the executive assistant to the CEO, I know what they do. Like, you know what I mean? I know what they do.
1,000%. I've been an executive assistant and I've moved on from it. I don't know where you get off speaking like your name is goddamn Jeff Bezos. But this is in her mind. She is so
You a 38-year-old executive assistant.
She has such an inflated sense of self. And it's really sad because she's using that inflated sense of self to beat David down.
But also, it's a very Karen thing.
Oh, 1,000%. So it tracks.
It tracks wildly. She's almost the sheer definition of it.
Yeah.
Like, it is, the way that they can have an inflated sense of self and they just be, cleaning floors.
Yeah.
Part of me admires it. You know what I mean?
Because it's really wild. You talk about him like y'all not basically in the same place in life.
Are you kidding?
It's really crazy.
Me? You are basically in the same place in life. So then I told Joe what the average salary was because I also looked that up. Okay? Because I'm trying to get an idea, a picture of what she's saying. So at X, an executive assistant to the CEO can make anywhere between $120,000 and $160,000. We know if you work at those kind of large companies that you'll get in a bonus or whatever. So let's say at the end of it all, she could potentially make $180,000 a year.
That ain't what she making.
I know you're not making that because I'm looking at the way you live.
That ain't it.
I know you're not making that. You know what I mean? And the problem, and the reason why I had to do that kind of research is because I truly had to understand. I'm really trying to understand you, Michelle.
Why are you talking like you talk? And
you don't talk real heavy.
Yeah, I don't have it. I don't have an explanation.
And I don't.
Other than the fact that you just don't like this man. And you are trying to convince us.
It's everything but that.
You're trying to build your case as to why you not liking him is justified. And you're doing a piss poor job of doing it. Even though I know in your mind, you think you're doing a wonderful job of laying your case out. Up until Dr. Pia played that video. And then you didn't like that.
I see what you're doing.
Showing you a mirror? What am I doing? What's covert? She played the video. It's literally Michelle describing David to a T, down to the sleeve on his arm. All Dr. Pia did was play the video, and she immediately got upset. Why?
Before that, they go bowling with the Toms. David, Michelle, and go bowling.
Not the Tom.
They both named Tom, so the Toms. And she's telling them a news story about how when David met Michelle's mother, he was cursing. And let me say this.
Like 3 weeks ago.
And that turned her mother off. Her mother raised Osama bin Laden. Okay? That don't turn her off.
How about that?
That don't bother nobody. You are an actual... And I ain't even going to do Osama like that. What's the one? She's basically the Unabomber. She got a whole manifesto about why she don't like this man.
Yeah.
Okay? We ain't really going to know about it until she blow everything the hell up any goddamn way. You are the problem. Also... And this man is 37 years old by the time he get married. If you are in a world anywhere around me and think I'm going to be around your parents or mine and miss my motherfucking words, you got me chopped and screwed. I tell people that all the time. I'm grown.
But
at the point in which it's my life, I'm going to say whatever I want to say.
The truth of the matter is, I don't even want to legitimize her gripes because they aren't real. This is a facade. This is fake.
But David
this
had hit a wall.
And I'm glad he did because you could see it on his face that he was tired of the bullshit. This is also bullshit. Right? This man, you let her tell it, he was cussing the mother out.
And we know he come from, as a black person, when I say I'm going to say whatever I want to say, this man is a brown man. Y'all of the belief he in front of the elders speaking in your kind of way.
But no one ever described him as a disrespectful, foul-mouthed ass dude. No one ever said that about him. So it's just her constantly holding on to these little nuggets that she thinks is going to help her build her case.
It's too much. He's starting to feel like a punching bag, and he's right to feel that way.
Right.
And when the friend said, I'm shocked you not head over heels, I understood the friend as well. You don't like bowling. You don't like anything that you think. You're so poor. You are so poor in thought, in mind, everywhere. You're in a prison of poorness. Because you actually think...
that is the title.
For real.
A prison of poorness.
You are in a prison of poorness because you think that if you do these things that align you with wealth, that these people will treat you better. When Dr. Pia clocked her mother jumping ass and said, well, when you first moved here, you didn't have everything you got.
Now, I ain't going to lie. That was some of Dr. Pia's best work. That was the highlight of Dr. Pia Reels.
So if they don't help you, if they start treating you in your kind of way, then what? Well, I was in my 20s. Girl, you 38 and you set in the calendar for another human.
Right.
Another adult who, guess what, has the ability to set the calendar.
How about that?
And the time to do it. Okay? So let's stop playing. Let's stop playing.
But
you know
that was
what I mean?
Dr. Pia pulling her back down to earth because she also sensed that you have an inflated sense of self.
You do.
So this isn't something that we pull out of thin air. Like, I could tell that Dr. Pia was like, let's reel you back in. You're not where you think you are.
But you know what, though? The executive assistants to the CEO do be thinking they the CEO.
They do. And I've met them. They
They
do.
really do. And you be having to be like,
no.
you can't.
You can't think
If
this.
you leave here, if you step 1 foot outside of this place, you're entry level.
Yes,
Don't
literally.
you ever get it effed up. So you need to be here for it. Like, you have to stay here. Because outside of here, it ain't what you think it is.
Yes.
It is so fascinating. That's another inflated sense of self, too. Executive assistant. Then they started calling y'all that to make you feel better about your job when, truthfully, you're
secretary. Full stop. So let's stop.
And I don't think it's nothing wrong with being a secretary. But I'm saying y'all think because y'all call yourself executive assistant, it puts you...
You're above it.
Please. We all saw The Devil Wears Prada. Okay. Unimpressed. So there's that. Now they speak with Dr. Pia. She says, you know, she just wants someone that can provide. And Dr. Pia says there's other ways outside of fight, other ways to provide that has nothing to do with money. And she was like, what do you mean? Like,
And that was maybe the dumbest, but that was such a...
you've been on this earth for almost 40 years.
And I'm so glad it happened because this is one place where she's one of many who think like this. And it's really sad because in situations like this, I really want y'all to get what y'all deserve. I want y'all to be in that situation where you with a mug who got all the resources, gave you everything you, because we can name the women who've been there before and will probably laugh in your face for you to say something like that. But part of the reason why we're in such the piss poor dating scene that we are is because we have reduced men to their height and their paycheck.
And that's it.
Not realizing that there's plenty of women in the world who would tell you, are you crazy? Somebody divorced Jeff Bezos. Cassie was with a man who had all the resources and was a provider. And then we saw videos of him dragging her down a hallway. So the notion that there's nothing else to a relationship but that, she genuinely looked at Dr. Pia like, what is it? What else am I supposed to be looking for in a man? How did she get picked?
But you know what? I'm getting increasingly more aware of like what y'all looking for as like casting directors. It's not people who want to be married.
Oh, I don't disagree
because
with that at all.
How did she get picked? I am almost, when they asked her on the couch about whether or not she would be with somebody who lived at home, and she scoffed. Y'all shouldn't have picked her then. That should have been a red flag to y'all. Not because she shouldn't have her preferences. That's not the problem. But because y'all are here to get people to be married.
Y'all want the best candidate.
That's what y'all selling us.
Y'all want the best candidate.
But do y'all want the best candidates or do you want the best show? I mean, best, more entertainment, right?
Freudian slip.
To me, she was chosen specifically to terrorize this young man. They said, you know what? He's really nice. They said, David is so nice. He could be terrorized for 2 months.
Like, he's going to
It ain't going to ruin him.
But I'm going to tell y'all this right now. Just how I feel about Allan. If David show up and do some fuck shit, don't come to me. Don't tune into this channel and think I'm going to chastise him. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not. I don't care. I'm telling you right now. If David, because I feel the same way about Allan telling her, you can go fuck yourself in your football. If David, because we are all human. And you can't expect to beat on somebody and think that they're just going to take it for the rest of their in perpetuity.
But what
so
he's done,
if David show up and do some old fuckboy shit, do not come here because you're not going to get it from here. I'm going to tell you right now.
And I also feel like we need the experts every day. These people are mentally ill.
Every day.
Every day. We ain't got nothing to say. I'm tired of yelling at y'all. And let us know if we missed anything. Yeah, I'm your girl. It's Zar Eleanor. This is my beautiful husband, Joseph. Love you guys. Bye. Thanks for watching The Conner's Couch.
Jeez.